If you want to see more affordable home prices across the United States and in your market, then you should pay attention to what's going on in Texas. While most of the United States has seen their median sales price increase year over year and affordability remain low, inventory remain extremely low, Texas has seen their inventory start to tick up. They've started to see home prices decline in certain counties across Texas, and that's resulting in a more affordable housing market for buyers and a more favorable housing market for buyers. Of course, when their median sales price in these counties starts to decrease, that's not good for homeowners. It's not good for people who bought planning on selling in the near future, but it's great for people looking to get into the housing market. I think everyone across the country who is looking to buy a home wants things to be more affordable. And I know that's the case here in Vermont, where people, they don't want to have to move away. They want to be able to buy a home, be able to afford that monthly payment, and live in the state that they want to live in. So if that's what you want from your market, I think we should pay attention to what's going on here in Texas and see if there's anything we can take away from it. So let's get right into this article. But first, my name's Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in the state of Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, feel free to reach out to me directly. All my contact information is in the description, and I'm happy to help you, whether you're in Vermont or somewhere else in the country, maybe Texas. Still happy to help. And let's get right into it here. So, Texas Homes Flood Housing Market is the title of this article out of Newsweek. And so the inventory is a big thing in Texas, which is the main reason why why their prices are starting to come down, while across the country, home prices are remaining stable. And it says right here, this red highlighted section, U.S. active listing count for homes, meanwhile, was slightly less than 800,000. With Texas making up about 90,000 of those 800,000 homes for sale in the U.S., which is just insane. Over 10% of all homes for sale across the country are for sale in Texas. And they talk about the counties that have a extreme spike in inventory. Right down here, Austin, San Antonio, Killeen, Waco, up 30% compared to the long-term average home. So there's 30% more inventory in those markets compared to the long-term average, which is the exact opposite of what we're seeing here in Vermont, where here in Chittenden County, homes are about a quarter or even less. The inventory is about a quarter of what it was previously, pre-pandemic. So it's really, really the exact opposite. And that all has to come down. That all comes down to building. They built more homes in Texas, which allows price to fluctuate as supply and demand naturally regulates itself. And it says here, data from Zillow's Home Value Index showed that prices are already falling in some markets, with Austin showing an 8.2% decline year over year and Beaumont showing a decrease of 5.7%, right? Way different than what we're seeing in the national housing market, where the median sales price, this blue line over on the left, is up 4.2%. So again, home prices are becoming more affordable in Texas than other parts of the country, and that has to do with building. Now, when we take a look at how much they built, it says right here, Texas in 2023, building permits that were issued were 220,000 building permits. So they're bringing a ton of inventory to the market. Now, one thing to note is that the experts in this article, they don't reference specific affordable building permits that were issued. It seems like Texas, in many of these counties, they just kind of build as the demand requires them to. So if there's a ton of demand for homes, then they can just build and kind of expand their cities so that more people can move there. And there's not this huge push for specifically affordable housing. Now, that is just kind of my sense from reading this article. If you live in Texas and I'm wrong, please tell me in the comment section. And I don't want to give any false information, so please correct me. And so here, the typical house payment for a home buyer in Texas was $1,000 per month pre-pandemic, but right now it's $2,100, right? Which is still unaffordable for a lot of people. But when we take a look at the average housing payment across the country, we see that it's at $2,450. So it's about $350 cheaper to purchase the median home in Texas than it is across the country. And again, with a ton of inventory on the market, you're more likely to get favorable terms as a buyer and find something that you can actually afford that doesn't need a whole lot of work because you have so many options. So let's take a look at the last few points here. This is something that I wanted to mention. This red highlighted area, prices were generally down in rural neighborhoods where urban neighborhoods are dominated by investors. However, across the board, prices shot up in wealthy suburbs where home buyers will still have the most trouble. So, why is that important? Basically, because Texas tends to sprawl out their building, and that's what they say right below this section here too. Is they say they sprawl out and build across their cities. So essentially what they were saying in that red highlighted section is the most expensive neighborhoods are still desirable, right? You can't make more land in those desirable neighborhoods and people want to live there. But Texas, they build out. So as there's more demand and as people who can't afford homes closer to these city centers, then people start building and developers start building outwards and more homes come to the market. There's more inventory and people can purchase those properties. Now, places like Austin and many counties around Texas did see prices shoot up drastically during the pandemic. And part of this is a correction of that shoot up. But really, I think what it also is instead of restricting supply and that way when migrants and demand increases, price is the only thing that goes up. When you allow supply to be free and you allow builders to sprawl out and expand your cities like they do in Texas, then what happens is the median sales price and home prices in general, although they might increase, they're going to increase less than they would if your supply was constrained, right? So basically, instead of artificially restricting supply and altering home prices, what you're doing is you're allowing inventory to naturally balance home prices. And as supply and demand fluctuates, price will naturally fluctuate with that. But it's generally over the long term going to remain more stable and more affordable for people and moving into the future, right? Whereas you have a restricted housing supply market where all of a sudden more buyers start to move into that market, more people start buying homes and competing for that limited inventory. The only thing that can really differentiate these buyers, right, because there's only so much you can judge offers from, is going to be price in terms of the offer. And a lot of times that's going to cause prices to shoot straight up like we've seen across the country and like we've seen here in Vermont. But if we allow more inventory to come to the market, we give these buyers more options, then that should keep home prices stable, especially through those outer areas, right? In the inner parts that are still desirable, there can only be so much supply in those areas. But as people spread out and there's more land that's being built and developed, more homes in those areas, then there can be more affordable housing in those areas as well. And now, of course, home prices are starting to come down in Texas, where when you have the limited supply markets, like here in Vermont, home prices aren't coming down despite these higher rates because there's still more buyers than there are sellers out there. Whereas Texas, they're seeing home prices come down. And something that I've stressed in this channel many times is when you buy your primary investment or your primary home, it's not an investment. And a lot of people think of it as an investment because there's been a lot of people who have gained a ton of wealth by just buying their primary residence. But really what it is you're purchasing a product. You are buying a home and you are buying it to have control over that space, to have some space that's your own. And you are going to pay that mortgage down. There is tax benefits to it, and it can benefit you financially, especially when you compare it to renting. But it's not built to be this investment. It's not built to appreciate rapidly over time, right? It probably will appreciate slowly as the US government continues to print money and devalue the dollar. Then the price of these assets are naturally going to increase, but that's really another story. And that's something they stress in this Newsweek article, is that when you buy a home in Texas, it's less of an investment, less of a short-term purchase it, and then the property is going to appreciate year over year, and then I'll be able to sell it for a profit, like you see in some of these other cities, in these closed access cities that don't allow supply to increase drastically. You can do that with generally little downside risk, especially here in Vermont, where, you can purchase a home. Home prices haven't historically fallen significantly year over year. And then you can be pretty safe that, you'll at least get your money back out of it. If not, you'll be able to sell it for higher moving into the future, where as with Texas, you're probably not going to see home prices shoot up quite as much as Vermont, especially in these outer areas. Again, urban areas where they've already built up and there's only so much land, that's a different story. But in these outer areas, home prices aren't likely to shoot up drastically. They're likely to stay more stable, and you might not gain a whole bunch of appreciation, but your home value shouldn't, completely fall off of a cliff either. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I always love hearing your perspective in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.